I was in my kitchen at Rosegate House, stirring a pot of soup that didn't need my attention, just something to keep my hands busy. Outside the tall windows, London looked washed and quiet, the kind of gray that makes everything feel slower. Inside, the house held that calm silence I usually loved. Old floorboards, soft ticking from the hallway clock, the faint smell of lemon cleaner from the morning. I told myself I was having a normal day. Then my phone rang, and the calm cracked like thin ice. It was my sister, Mara. Her name on the screen made me smile for half a second, because that's what sisters do to you. You soften without meaning to. But the moment I answered, I could hear something was wrong. Her voice was careful, like she was walking across glass in bare feet. "Elena," she said, "I need you to listen and not get angry." That sentence always makes me angry before anything else even happens, but I breathed in and let her talk.
She didn't waste time.
"Ethan doesn't want you to attend the wedding," she said. The words landed in my chest, heavy and unreal. For a moment, I honestly thought I had misheard her. I even looked down at the soup like it could correct what my ears had taken in. "What do you mean he doesn't want me there?" I asked, and my voice sounded too calm, which is how I know I'm shocked. "He's my brother. It's my sister's wedding. I'm not some random guest." Mara's breath trembled through the phone. "It's not like that," she said quickly. "It's complicated." I leaned against the counter, gripping the edge hard enough that my knuckles turned pale. "Complicated usually means someone has been talking behind my back," I said. She went silent, and that silence told me everything before she even spoke again. Then she said it, and I swear the room got colder. "Vanessa's family thinks you're not the mistress of the inheritance of $100 billion. That exact phrase, like it was a title people could earn or lose. I let out one short laugh that didn't feel like laughter at all. "The mistress of what?" I asked. My stomach flipped, not because of the money part, but because of the disrespect. People can gossip about numbers all day. What hurts is when your own family lets them. Mara rushed to explain, but each word made it worse. She said Vanessa's mother, Diana Crowley, was worried about image. She said Vanessa's father, Graham, didn't like uncertainty. She said they didn't want questions at the wedding, didn't want whispers, didn't want anyone challenging their version of our family. And then, like it was a small thing, she said, "Ethan thinks it's better if you just don't come. He wants peace."
Peace.
That word made my throat burn. "So the solution is to hide me," I said softly. "To erase me so they can feel comfortable." Mara's voice dropped to a whisper. "Please, Elena. Just this once. It'll be easier." I stared at the reflection of my own face in the dark window glass. Tired eyes, tight mouth, the kind of expression you get when you're trying not to break in half. And in that moment, I realized something simple and sharp. This wasn't about peace. It was about control. And if I stayed quiet now, I would be quiet forever. 2 months earlier, the engagement party had filled Ashwood Manor with the kind of noise that sounds happy until you listen closely. Ashwood sits outside Bath, surrounded by hedges that never grow straight and a garden that smells like wet earth after rain. The house itself is old, the sort of place with long corridors and doors that sigh when you open them. Mara wanted the party to feel classic, which meant candles, string music, and too many flowers. I paid for most of it because I didn't want her stressed, and because I still believed, back then, that helping was the same as being loved. People arrived in polished cars and bright coats, carrying gifts and opinions. Mara floated from group to group with that smile she uses when she's nervous, and Ethan tried to play the calm groom, though he kept checking his phone like he expected it to explode. Vanessa looked perfect in a pale dress that made her seem gentle. But her family watched everything like they were taking notes. Diana Crowley wore pearls and a thin smile, and Graham Crowley asked questions that sounded polite, but felt like a test. "So, Elena," he said, lifting his glass, "your father's estate. People say it's enormous. Is that true?" I answered with the same line I always use when someone tries to pull numbers out of my mouth. I don't discuss private finances at parties. He nodded like I had confirmed what he wanted, not what I said. I tried to ignore the strange tension and focus on small things. I helped the caterer find the right serving table. I adjusted the place cards when the wind pushed them out of line. I refilled the tea station because older guests always drift there when they want a break from champagne. I told myself that families get weird around weddings and money and pride, and that if I stayed kind and quiet, the weirdness would pass. Looking back, I can see how I kept choosing the softer option, even when it cost me. Later that night, someone spilled red wine on the stair carpet, and Mara panicked like it was a disaster. I took her upstairs to breathe, and I cleaned the stain myself because that's what I do when someone I love is falling apart. When we came back down, the party had shifted into that late-hour mood. Laughs louder, conversations closer, people leaning in like they had secrets to share. The staff moved through the rooms collecting glasses, and I noticed one of our silver trays was missing. It wasn't a major thing, but Ashwood has had its share of security scares, and I like knowing what's in my house. That's the part one need to explain, because it matters. The year before, after a break-in on our street in London, I had installed security cameras in both Rosegate House and Ashwood Manor. Not everywhere, just sensible places. The entry hall, the back corridor, the sitting room doorway. I didn't want to watch people. I wanted the house protected. Cameras are like locked doors. You don't think about them until something goes wrong. A week after the engagement party, I was going through the footage to see if anyone had carried the silver tray out by mistake. I had a cup of tea beside me, the kind with milk and a small spoon, and I remember thinking the task would be boring. It wasn't. I clicked through hours of polite chaos, guests arriving, coats piled high, laughter in the hall. Then I reached a clip from just after midnight, and my hands stopped moving. In the sitting room, the camera caught Mara standing with Diana, Graham, and Vanessa. They were close together like a little circle that didn't want outsiders. I leaned forward without realizing it, my heart already tightening. Diana's voice was calm, like she was discussing table settings, not people. If Elena comes to the wedding, people will ask questions, she said. The press might sniff around. We cannot have that. Graham nodded and replied, and frankly, we don't believe she's the true holder of anything. She's not the mistress of that inheritance. She's just attached to it. Vanessa laughed softly, the sound light and cruel. She's an accessory, she said, as if I was a handbag. I waited for Mara to defend me. I truly did. I sat there staring at the screen like my hope could change what happened next. Mara didn't defend me. She leaned in and spoke with a tone I had never heard from her before. Eager, agreeable, almost proud. She'll stay away if Ethan asks, she said. Ethan listens to me. I'll frame it like it's for peace. Diana nodded once, approving, and said, "Good girl." I paused the video. I rewound it and played it again because my brain refused to accept it the first time. The words didn't change. The faces didn't change. My sister's voice didn't change. I felt my throat go dry and my stomach drop, like I had missed a step on the stairs. Then the shock slid into something colder and clearer. I saved the clip in 3 different places. I didn't do it dramatically. I did it quietly, like someone locking away a sharp object before it can cut them again. And when I finally closed my laptop, I understood one hard truth. The party wasn't just a celebration. It was a meeting. And I had been standing in the building without knowing I was on the agenda. I didn't call Ethan the same night I found the footage, because I didn't trust my own voice. If I spoke too soon, I would cry or rage, and either one would give them a way to call me emotional and toss the truth aside. So I did the one thing I'm good at when my heart is loud. I got organized. I watched the clip again and again until it stopped feeling like a nightmare and started feeling like evidence. I saved it on an external drive, I backed it up in a secure folder, and I wrote down the exact time and date from the camera stamp. I even made a note of who was standing where, like I was preparing for court instead of family. It sounds cold, but it was the only way to keep myself steady. 2 days later, I flew to New York City for work. The trip had been scheduled for weeks, and I refused to cancel it because I wasn't going to let their drama swallow my life whole. Manhattan was sharp and bright compared to London's soft gray, all glass and noise, and people who walk like they're late for everything. I checked into my hotel near Midtown, put my suitcase down, and stared at the city through the window until my thoughts lined up in a straight row. Ethan was also in New York. Vanessa's family had business there, and they were looking at venues for a second celebration, something exclusive, something private. When he texted me asking to meet, I agreed because I wanted him looking at my face when I showed him the truth. We met in the hotel lounge in the late afternoon. It smelled like coffee and expensive cologne, and there were couples talking softly in corners like the rest of the world didn't exist. Ethan arrived wearing a suit that sat a little wrong on his shoulders, as if stress had changed his shape. He tried to smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Elena," he said, and his voice sounded tired. "Thanks for coming. I know things are tense." I didn't answer that. I opened my laptop on the table between us, like I was placing something heavy down on wood. "Before you explain anything," I said, "I'm going to show you something. Then you can tell me if you still think I should stay away." His eyebrows pulled together. "What is that?" he asked, already defensive. "Is this about money?" Because I told Mara I cut him off gently, not with anger, but with control. "It's not about money," I said. "It's about truth." I clicked play. The little video window opened, grainy and steady. The sitting room at Ashwood Manor framed like a stage. Ethan leaned forward without meaning to, his attention caught by the movement of familiar faces. At first, he looked confused, like he couldn't place the moment. Then Diana's voice came through, clear and calm, and Ethan's confusion turned into something else. I watched his jaw tighten when Diana spoke about me like I was a problem to be managed. I watched his eyes flick to Vanessa on the screen, the way you look at someone you thought you knew. When Graham said the phrase about the mistress of the inheritance, Ethan's mouth opened slightly, like the words had slapped him. The worst moment, at least for him, was Mara. When my sister said, "She'll stay away if Ethan asks." Ethan went still. He didn't blink. His face drained of color as if his body was trying to protect itself by shutting down. And when Diana said, "Good girl," Ethan's hands curled into fists beneath the table. The clip ended, the screen went dark, and the lounge noise returned, but it felt far away, like we were behind thick glass. Ethan stared at the laptop as if he expected it to change. "No," he said quietly. "No, that can't be." His voice cracked on the last word. He looked up at me, and for a second, he didn't look like my brother. He looked like a boy who had just learned that adults can lie. "Elena," he said. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know they said those things." I believed him, mostly. But belief didn't erase the fact that he had still asked me to disappear. I kept my voice even. "Then why did you tell Mara to call me?" I asked. "Why didn't you call me yourself?" Ethan swallowed hard. "Because Vanessa said it would be better if it came from Mara," he admitted. "She said you'd take it softer." He said the word softer like it tasted bitter. Then he pushed his chair back so quickly it scraped the floor. "I need to call Mara," he said, already pulling out his phone. He called her right there in front of me, and he didn't lower his voice. "Mara," he said the moment she answered. "What is this? Why were you telling Vanessa's parents to keep Elena away?" I couldn't hear her clearly, just fast pleading sounds, excuses trying to grow into something solid. Ethan's breathing got rough. "Don't," he snapped. "Don't say it was for peace. You used me." He turned his back toward the window, the New York skyline behind him like a cold backdrop. "You made me the messenger of your betrayal." He hung up and immediately called Diana. That's when the going crazy part really started. Not crazy like a joke, but crazy like a man realizing his life has been shaped by people who don't love him. "Diana," he said, his voice shaking with anger. "I saw the footage.
I heard what you said.
About Elena." He listened, and his face tightened. "You don't get to decide who is family," he barked. A few guests glanced over. Ethan didn't care. He turned away again and said, "If Vanessa agrees with you, then I have a bigger problem than wedding seating." When he ended the call, he stood still, staring out at the city as if it could give him answers. His hands trembled slightly, and his eyes were bright in a way that looked like pain more than rage. "They planned it," he said, almost to himself. "They planned to cut you out, and I let them." He dropped back into his chair and rubbed his face hard, like he could wipe the moment away. "I'm supposed to marry into that?" he asked, and his voice was small. I didn't reach for his hand. I didn't comfort him the way I usually would, because this was a line he had to cross on his own. I simply closed my laptop and looked at him steadily. "Now you know," I said. "And now you get to choose." When Ethan called me 2 mornings after that meeting in New York, his voice was flat. No fury, no pleading, just exhaustion. "I postponed the wedding," he said. I was sitting in my study at Rosegate House, the air still heavy with London rain. His words dropped into the quiet like a stone into deep water. For a second, I couldn't breathe. "Postponed," I repeated slowly. "Not canceled." He exhaled. "Not yet. I need time. I need to think." I could picture him then, pacing the edge of some expensive hotel room, torn between loyalty and guilt. It wasn't triumph I felt. It was relief mixed with grief. My brother wasn't cruel, but he'd let other people steer his ship for too long. Maybe now he was finally reaching for the wheel. "They'll hate this," I said. "Vanessa's family, Mara, everyone." "I know," he said quietly, "but they'll have to live with it." The following days blurred together. News of the postponement spread fast. Mara tried to call me 6 times, but I didn't answer. When she finally showed up at my door uninvited, she looked smaller somehow, like guilt had stolen inches from her height. Her mascara had smudged, and she clutched her phone like it might protect her. "Elena, please. I just want to talk." I led her into the living room, the same one where we'd opened Christmas presents as children. The fire was low, throwing long orange shadows on the walls. I poured tea for both of us, because that's what polite English women do, even when their hearts are bruised. Mara started crying before I even sat down. "I didn't mean for things to go this far," she said. Her voice trembled, half apology, half self-defense. "You have to believe me." I folded my hands in my lap. "Then tell me," I said evenly. "Tell me why you helped them lie about me." Her eyes flicked up to mine, wet and frightened. "It wasn't supposed to be like that," she said. "Vanessa's parents kept saying awful things, that you'd make the family look unstable, that you were only pretending to have control over the inheritance. They said you embarrassed them with your independence." She laughed bitterly through her tears. "Imagine that, being too independent for rich people." I didn't smile. "And you believed them?" I asked. Mara shook her head quickly. "No, but she stopped, searching for words that wouldn't damn her. "I was scared, Elena. They have power. They made it clear that if I didn't go along, they could ruin everything. Ethan's job, the house, the money for the wedding. I thought if I just kept things calm, I could fix it later." I leaned forward, voice low but sharp. "You tried to fix their comfort, not the truth. You thought protecting their lies was safer than protecting your sister." She wiped her cheeks with shaking hands. "I know. I was stupid. I thought Ethan would forgive me. You always do." That last line cut deeper than the rest, because she wasn't wrong. I had spent years being the one who forgave, who paid, who cleaned up after everyone else's mistakes. But something inside me had changed since watching that footage. Forgiveness had to stop being my currency. Ethan arrived a few minutes later, uninvited but expected. He looked different, tired but focused, his usual charm stripped away. He nodded to me, then turned to Mara.
"We're going to talk," he said.
All of us. No more half-truths. He sat down, elbows on his knees. Mara, I heard everything on that video. You can't talk your way out of it. You plotted with Vanessa's family to humiliate Elena. Mara's face went pale. It wasn't a plot. It was pressure. They were. Ethan slammed his hand against his thigh. Stop defending them. They treated my sister like she was dirt. His voice cracked with fury. And you laughed with them. The silence after that was thick enough to touch. Mara's sobs broke it. I've lost everything, she whispered. Vanessa won't speak to me. Her parents said the engagement is over. Ethan, I was trying to keep the peace. Ethan's expression softened, but his words didn't. Peace built on lies always collapses. I watched them both, my broken sister and my waking brother, and felt strangely calm. Mara, I said, you haven't lost everything. You've lost people who used you. That's painful, but it's not the end. She looked up, eyes red. And you? Have I lost you too? I thought for a long time before answering. Not completely, I said. But things will be different now. Respect isn't optional anymore. You don't get to spend my kindness like it's your allowance. She nodded slowly, as if each word weighed something. Ethan turned to me. I ended the engagement, he said quietly. Last night. Vanessa tried to blame you, of course. Said you'd planted the video. But I told her the only thing planted was her family's arrogance. For the first time in months, I smiled, small, tired, but real. So, it's over? It's over, he said. A week later, I met with my lawyer, Clara Bennett, in her office near Hyde Park. I transferred a portion of my inheritance, £20 million, into a new charitable trust for women starting over after family betrayal. Clara looked at me curiously. You don't have to prove your worth, Elena, she said gently. I smiled at her. I'm not proving anything, I said. I'm freeing it. When I returned to Rosegate House that evening, the sky had cleared. The house was quiet, peaceful in a way it hadn't been for a long time. I walked through each room slowly, touching the furniture like they were old friends. In the sitting room, I paused by the small security camera in the corner, the one that had changed everything. Sometimes, I think about deleting that footage, letting the past dissolve into silence. But I never do. It's not revenge that keeps me from pressing erase. It's remembrance. Proof that I once refused to be erased myself. Now, when people whisper about the mistress of the inheritance, I just laugh softly. I don't need to correct them. They can believe what they want. Because the truth, the real inheritance, isn't money. It's the moment you realize you don't need anyone's permission to exist. And as I sat there in the quiet of my own house, the rain starting again outside, I finally felt something simple and honest settle in my chest. Peace. Not the kind my sister begged for, the shallow kind built on silence, but the deep, earned peace that comes after you've chosen yourself.